After breaking up with my girlfriend, I still kept the habit of peeling shrimp shells. Before I knew it, it was crawfish season again. I dug up my ex-wife's account and asked her, "How about getting back together?" To my surprise, she replied, "No, I have a new boyfriend now. Stop trying to win me back with such childish methods. It's stupid." However, I didn't get angry at all. Instead, I slowly asked, "So, do you and your boyfriend eat crawfish?" Chapter 01. I'm downstairs at your place, I said gloomily. I brought 14 pounds of crawfish. The voice of Willow on the other end of the phone suddenly stopped. She seemed incredulous, as if she thought the whole thing was absurd. Then I heard her lightly sniff, and as usual, with a sharp tone, she asked, "What did you just say?" "Repeat what you just said." I didn't expect Willow, so young, to already be starting to lose her hearing. After a pause, I silently repeated, "The crawfish place we often go to is having a promotion. Buy 5 pounds, get 2 extra free." She asked, "So you bought 10 pounds? Willow's voice suddenly became sharp. Over the phone, I could almost hear her hysteria. She shouted, "George, have you lost your mind?" I silently held the phone a little farther from my ear. After a while, when Willow had calmed down a little, I carefully picked up the phone and asked, "So, do you and your boyfriend eat crawfish?" "Go away." Willow shouted the last sentence at the phone and hung up quickly. I stood downstairs at her place with the crawfish, looking up at the floor of her apartment and sighed deeply. Well, all my calculations didn't include the fact that Willow had a new boyfriend. These 14 pounds of crawfish, who knows when I'll finish peeling them. I sat for a while in the flower bed outside her building, feeling a little lost and not knowing what to do. I opened my friend list, hoping to ask someone to help me finish the crawfish, but it was already late, and everyone had just finished dinner. Too tired to help, I sighed again, stood up, and picked up the 4 big bags, heading toward the gate to grab a cab. Not long after, I ran into Willow, who was clearly unhappy and had no idea when she came down. She stood there, staring at me coldly without saying a word, just staring at me in confusion for a long time. I smiled, holding up the crawfish bags and asked, "Freshly cooked, don't you want some?" Willow kept a cold expression, took 2 bags of crawfish from my hands without saying anything, and turned to leave. Wait, I couldn't stop myself from calling her. Willow turned to look at me, pursing her lips, her eyebrows raised slightly. I had been with Willow for 4 years, and I was very familiar with her little gestures. In fact, I was so familiar with them that she didn't even need to speak for me to understand what she meant. Just like now, what she was trying to say was, "Say it quickly, get to the point," but she didn't speak, just looked at me coldly. A raised eyebrow and a glance were enough for me to understand. I paused for a moment and silently said, 5 pounds of crawfish, $240. Willow widened her eyes in disbelief, and I silently met her gaze. After a while, I heard Willow sneer, "Fine, George, you've really learned something. If I ever talk to you again, I'll be a dog." Willow transferred the money to me without looking at me again and quickly left. Before leaving, I saw her angrily kick the raised brick. The brick was slightly damaged, but she was severely hurt. Her toes curled up in pain, as if they were trying to shrink together. Yet, she still pretended nothing had happened and limped away. Chapter 02. That evening, Willow suddenly posted a video on her WeChat Moments. In the video, a man was seriously peeling a whole bowl of crawfish meat, then placed all of it in front of her. Willow smiled slightly, opened her mouth, and waited for him to feed her, but the video abruptly stopped. I silently liked the video, then turned off my phone, staring blankly at the crawfish in my hand. I had expected Willow to have a new boyfriend. I just didn't expect that day to come so quickly. When we were forced to break up, Willow, with red eyes, clung tightly to my sleeve and tearfully threatened me, saying, "George, if you dare find another woman, I'll haunt you as a ghost." Willow had said she would wait for me forever, and I believed her. But 6 months later, she already had a new boyfriend. I silently ate a piece of crawfish that I had peeled, and it tasted a bit sour. It clearly didn't taste like this before. Every summer, I would take Willow to eat crawfish many times, but today, it felt off, like something was missing. I silently opened the chat with Willow, wanting to ask her if the crawfish we bought this time tasted different, but as I finished typing the message, I suddenly realized that Willow must have a new boyfriend now. As her ex, it probably wasn't a good idea for me to keep disturbing her. I slowly deleted the message, and when I deleted the last word, I saw that Willow's profile picture had changed to a photo with that man. The next moment, I saw a message from Willow. She wrote, "Let's delete each other. I don't want my boyfriend to misunderstand." I didn't reply, staring at these 2 sentences for a long time. I initially wanted to reply with "okay," but was afraid to send it, imagining the red exclamation mark that would appear. After thinking for a long time, I decided not to reply and not to block or delete Willow. Let it be. After all, she must have already deleted me. Whether I delete her or not didn't matter anymore. I silently spit out the crawfish meat in my mouth, feeling no appetite for the remaining 6 pounds. After washing my hands in the kitchen, I came out and suddenly received a message from WeChat. I casually glanced at it and saw that Willow had sent a message. Test. It was a random message, and then she quickly retracted it. I was a bit confused and sent her a question mark in reply. The next second, a red exclamation mark popped up in the chat. This time, Willow really had blocked me. I held my phone, silent for a long time. 10 minutes later, I thought for a moment and decided to send a message to the account that had blocked me. Well, I have to move on too. Once sent, the message was delivered successfully. There was no red exclamation mark before my message. I froze for a moment, then realized that Willow hadn't actually deleted me. She had just put me on her blacklist, and after a while, removed me from it. On Willow's side, it showed typing for a long time. Finally, she sent, whatever you want. I looked at the message, frowned slightly, clicked on her profile, stared at it for a while, then pursed my lips and deleted her as a friend. Just like how eating too many crawfish isn't good for your health, Willow has a boyfriend now, and it's time for me to look ahead too. Chapter 03. I've come to terms with things. So, when the manager once again mentioned introducing his sister to me at work, I didn't laugh it off and change the subject like before. Instead, I smiled and said, "Sure, bro. You can introduce her to me through a friend request. We can get to know each other first." That day, I added her as a friend and sent a simple greeting. It seemed like she wasn't too eager to chat. I'm not the type to push for a conversation. So after a couple of awkward exchanges, we didn't talk much further. I thought that would be the end of it, and that nothing would come of it with Sue Manager's sister, but I didn't expect Sue Manager to be so persistent. That very evening, after work, he invited his sister out to dinner, and then found some excuse to say he needed to talk to me. He took both me and his sister to the restaurant, then quickly made up an excuse that he needed to use the restroom and left us there, leaving me and Anna facing each other at the table. It was the first time Anna and I met, and we both felt a little awkward, unsure of what to say. I scratched my head and said, "Actually, I'm not that hungry." After hesitating for a moment, I suggested, "How about we just leave?" Anna nodded in agreement, but just as we were about to get up and leave, the waiter began bringing out the food. It was then that I realized Sue Manager, before leaving, had thoughtfully ordered our meal and even paid the bill. At this point, not eating felt a little uncomfortable. Anna hesitated for a moment, then sat back down in her chair, smiled slightly, and said, "My brother is like that sometimes. He's just so hard to deal with." I quickly waved my hand. No, I actually think Sue Manager is a great guy. He's always been really supportive of me. Anna gave me an incredulous look. Then after a long silence, she finally said, "Now I get why my brother values you so much." She continued, "He keeps telling me how great you are. I'm starting to get tired of hearing it." I squinted, suddenly interested, wondering what exactly Sue Manager had been saying about me. The moment the topic came up, Anna seemed to wake up and got really excited. She insisted on telling me all the bad things about her brother. I listened and laughed as we gradually started talking more animatedly. Just as Anna and I were getting along more and more, a cold laugh suddenly interrupted us. "Hey." I turned around and met Willow's disdainful expression. She sneered and said, "Well, what a coincidence. Your new girlfriend." I froze for a moment, unsure of how to explain, but it seemed like Willow didn't need an explanation from me. She just stared at me intently, biting her lip, and said, "There's no space left in this restaurant. Would you mind if my boyfriend and I join you?" Chapter 04. Before Anna and I could refuse, Willow and her boyfriend naturally sat down at our table. I was still wondering if Willow had come to pick a fight, but then I realized they seemed to just be here to share the table. After sitting down, she didn't even look at me. Instead, she and the man next to her leaned in and started selecting dishes from their phones. Whenever they found something interesting, the guy would lean in and whisper something in Willow's ear. Before long, Willow let out a few giggles and playfully punched his shoulder. The two of them seemed incredibly intimate and sweet, making Anna and I look somewhat out of place, especially when Willow occasionally looked up and her gaze swept over Anna sitting next to me. Her expression wasn't exactly friendly. Anna, who was sitting beside me, caught Willow's gaze several times. She seemed a bit uncomfortable and couldn't help but send me a text asking, "Are they your friends?" I had no reason to hide anything, so I replied briefly, "Yeah, that girl is my ex-girlfriend. The other guy is probably her current boyfriend." What a typical ex versus current partner situation. Anna glanced down at the message, and couldn't hold it in, almost spitting her lemonade out. Willow instinctively leaned into her boyfriend's arms. I quickly handed a napkin to Anna, fearing she might really spit out the drink. Anna wiped her mouth and said, "I'm fine." I was still flustered, handing her the napkin. but accidentally grabbed her hand as she took it. The next moment, it was as if my hand had burned her, and she quickly pulled her hand back in panic. I turned around, wanting to say something, but as soon as I looked up, I ran into the sight of her flushed ears. Since we were sitting so close, I could even clearly see the visible blush still lingering on Anna's cheeks. I was about to apologize, but what came out instead was, "I didn't know you were so shy." I asked, "Has Miss Sue never been in a relationship before? Otherwise, how could she be this shy?" Anna started coughing again, her face turning bright red. I hurriedly handed her some water and patted her back to help her recover. After a while, Anna finally calmed down. She gave me a look of mild reproach, and I couldn't help but laugh. At the exact moment I laughed, there was a loud crash next to us, the sound of glass breaking on the floor, which startled both Anna and me. I instinctively turned my head to look, only to see shards of glass scattered everywhere and Willow's displeased face. When she met our gazes, she quickly pulled back her hand, lowered her eyes, and said slowly, "Sorry, my hand slipped." Chapter 05. Willow gave Anna a deep, resentful look and coldly said, "Let us order a salad to apologize." Anna quickly refused. "No need, no need, I'm already full." However, Willow completely ignored her and arrogantly called over the waiter to order a salad and 4 desserts for her boyfriend. Anna looked at Willow's actions, curling her lips, and tilted her head, as if she was about to say something to me, but before she could speak, she was interrupted by Willow. Willow sneered, "You two don't seem very well matched." She stared at Anna, speaking slowly. "How did you two get together? Don't mind telling me." Every word dripped with venom. Her tone also carried the vibe of a main wife confronting a mistress. It made everyone listening feel uncomfortable. Even Anna, who usually had a great temperament, couldn't help but furrow her brows. I sighed, patted Anna on the shoulder, signaling her to stay calm. I turned to Willow and said calmly, "Our business has nothing to do with you, does it? We don't need the desserts. We're full, so we'll be leaving now." I stood up with Anna and politely smiled at Willow's boyfriend, saying, "You two enjoy your meal." After that, I gently pulled Anna to leave, but Willow's face darkened, and she coldly called out, "Did I say you could leave?" I ignored her, but halfway to the door, Anna's arm was suddenly grabbed by Willow, leaving her unable to move. She angrily shouted at me, "Wong, you always run away when something happens. Are you still a man?" Without hesitation, I forcefully pulled Willow's hand off Anna and led her out of the restaurant. Anna frowned, clearly irritated by Willow's words. However, she also noticed that I didn't want to stay any longer, so she suppressed her anger and followed my lead. We both ignored Willow, and her face grew darker and darker, practically dripping with fury. Just as Anna and I were about to exit the restaurant, Willow suddenly slammed her water cup on the floor, drawing everyone's attention. Then she yelled at Anna, "Sue!" Willow's voice was light and playful as she said, "You're with George, huh? Did he ever tell you that his mom used to be a prostitute? That he's a bastard?" Anna's body trembled, and I froze, my steps coming to an abrupt halt. In that moment, it felt as if every single pair of eyes in the restaurant was fixed on me. I closed my eyes, hearing the soft murmur of whispers behind me. My hands trembled slightly as I clenched my fists tightly, struggling to suppress the suffocating sensation in my chest. Willow sneered and continued, "He didn't tell you, did he? George, look at you, how could you deceive this girl?" Willow tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and stepped closer to us, walking toward Anna until she stood right in front of her. She said, "He didn't tell you. Should I tell you the details?" She paused, leaning toward Anna, her gaze now shifting to me with a provocative smile. "I'm not sure, but I wonder if you'll still like him after hearing all of this." "Shut your filthy mouth." Anna bit her lower lip, glaring at Willow as if she were seconds away from slapping her across the face. But Willow just smiled and said, "Don't act like that. As women, I'm only trying to look out for you. I'm just worried you might not know who you're dealing with." Then, out of nowhere, I spoke. "Fine, then, go ahead. Tell me," I said, interrupting Willow's mockery and Anna's furious reaction. Willow heard my voice and looked up at me. When she saw the calm expression on my face, a brief flash of panic crossed her eyes. Her expression froze, but she still asked, "What did you just say?" I shrugged. I said, "I almost forgot about it. Since you remember, why don't you go ahead and say it? Let me hear it too." I repeated the words with no change in expression. As soon as the words left my mouth, the mocking look on Willow's face instantly froze. In that moment, it seemed she realized that as she was trying to insult Anna with her words, George, was standing right in front of her. George. Willow couldn't say anything else. She stood there for a long time, and all she managed to say was my name. Her panic was obvious as she reached for my arm. I remained silent, watching her, until her hand froze in front of her. She stammered, "No, that's not what I meant." Willow's eyes reddened as she tried to explain. I simply asked, Aren't you going to say it? She shook her head, her voice sharp as she answered, I'm not going to say it. It was as if she were desperately trying to cover up her emotions. And then she quickly added, George, I didn't mean it. You know me. I would never say such things. I really didn't mean it. Willow's explanations became more frantic. She was stomping her foot, so anxious that she was on the verge of tears. I just watched her unravel, and before I left, I gave her a deep look, leaving her with a final, cold sentence, You're really disgusting. Pretending to have amnesia right after acting like that. Shameless to this extent. If she wasn't being a whore, then who was? I calmly finished speaking, turned, and walked away. As I closed the restaurant door behind me, I heard the sharp sound of something crashing to the floor inside. Chapter 06. After leaving the restaurant, I looked up. Only then did I realize that it had started to rain lightly outside, though I didn't know exactly when. The rain wasn't heavy, just a light drizzle that brought a refreshing coolness to my face. I hadn't brought an umbrella, so I sighed. When the car to pick up Anna arrived, I got up to leave. However, as soon as I stepped into the rain, my sleeve was suddenly pulled. I turned around and met Anna's calm yet concerned face. She asked, Where are you going? She frowned. Why aren't you getting in the car? You're not bringing an umbrella. Where do you think you're going? I remained silent, replying, In weather like this, it's not a big deal not to use an umbrella. It was just light drizzle, with no wind or lightning, but Anna wouldn't let go and kept tightly gripping my sleeve. I frowned, wanting to explain, but when I saw the panic on Anna's face and the way her fingers trembled as she held onto me, I suddenly paused. It hit me. Anna seemed to be worried about me. The realization made all the emotions I had been trying to suppress surge once again. My heart skipped a beat, and a wave of bitterness and warmth washed over me. I said, What are you thinking? I'm fine. I forced a smile as I explained. I just want to walk to the subway station and take the subway home. Anna frowned, her gaze on my face full of suspicion, as if she didn't believe me. I said, I'm really fine. I shrugged and gave her a reassuring smile, explaining calmly, What Willow said is true. What's there to be upset about? I couldn't deny the fact that my mother had worked in a special profession, nor could I deny that I didn't even know who my father was, just a bastard born into this world. Just like I couldn't deny that I had once been in a deeply painful relationship with Willow. But in the end, it had ended in chaos, with nothing but broken pieces left. I said, Look at the bright side. I patted her shoulder and smiled, saying, Not knowing who my father is means I don't have to worry about taking care of him when he gets old. That's one of the few fortunate things. Haha. Anna was stunned by my words. She probably hadn't expected me to be so unaffected by my past that I could even joke about it. I said, When I was 18, I might have been embarrassed if my girlfriend had exposed my flaws in front of everyone. I smiled and said, But now, I'm almost 30. I explained, I know very well that I can't control where I was born. Why should I feel ashamed? I had no choice, no agency. Birth is just a fact that's beyond my control. People should be responsible for their actions, but there's no need to feel guilty for something as natural as that. Actually, I just didn't understand. I paused, and suddenly Willow's face appeared in my mind, causing me to tighten my fists. I just didn't understand why Willow had become like this. In the past, when I woke up from nightmares of being bullied, Willow would be there, nestling in my arms, soothing me with gentle words, saying, It's okay, it's all over. It's not George's fault. Those people were too cruel. We won't hang out with them anymore. But now, she had turned into the aggressive, confrontational person who had just yelled in front of everyone, Did you know his mother used to be a prostitute? He's a bastard. I lowered my head and unconsciously pinched the space between my eyebrows, trying to calm myself down. Anna stared at me for a long time, her expression complicated. After a while, I felt her hand slowly release mine. She said, You're right. Her voice was choked, but she spoke seriously. People can't control their birth, and of course, that's not your fault. I snapped back to reality and saw Anna staring at me. She gave me a small wink and, with a voice still choking with emotion, said, I left something in the restaurant. Can I go back and get it? Will you wait for me here? Chapter 07. I froze for a moment, unable to process what had just happened, and before I knew it, Anna had already gotten up and gone inside. When she returned, jogging back with a somewhat familiar umbrella in her hand, she flashed me a bright smile and said, No time to explain. Get in the car. I thought taking the subway would be convenient, but Anna was surprisingly persistent. I couldn't argue with her, so in the end, I reluctantly got in the car. Once we arrived at my place, I felt that not inviting her in for a cup of tea would be a bit impolite. I started to ask her, but as soon as the question left my lips, Anna's face instantly flushed red. I had been feeling groggy all day and didn't catch on to what she was thinking. I just assumed she was uncomfortable because there might be someone inside, so I casually explained, It's just me at home. It won't be inconvenient. But the moment I explained, Anna's face turned even redder. Only then did I realize that what I had said might have been inappropriate. In the end, I made her a cup of hot water, and after sitting with her for a while, I sent her off. After I saw Anna off and closed the door, I was about to head to the kitchen with my cup, but just after taking a couple of steps, the door suddenly knocked again. I wondered, did you forget something? I asked as I opened the door. The next moment, I heard a familiar female voice. The woman shouted, "Who forgot something? Your new girlfriend." Well, how long have you known her, and you already brought her home? There stood Willow, her left cheek swollen, her hair disheveled, and she was yelling hysterically, "George, how did I never notice how disgusting you are, acting all high and mighty, and as soon as we break up, you move on without missing a beat. What's next? You found someone just like your mom, a colleague. You two really do go together. A scumbag and a bitch. You two should lock yourselves away forever." I looked at her, and as soon as I met Willow's gaze, I suddenly reached out and slapped her hard across the face with all my strength. Willow's head was knocked sideways by the force. She lowered her head, raised a hand to cover her numbing face, and tears started to fall down her cheeks. I didn't want to say a word to Willow. I raised my hand to shut the door. However, the next second, just as I slammed the door shut, a sharp scream pierced through the air. I was suddenly aware that her hand had already slipped through the door. Her hand got tightly caught in the doorframe, and she curled in pain, her face instantly turning pale. As I gritted my teeth and tried to pull the door open to push her out, she suddenly lunged at me like a madwoman, wrapping her arms tightly around my neck, her body pressed up against mine. In a fit of rage, I reached back to grab her hair, but she clung to me like she was numb to everything, refusing to let go. I couldn't help but curse. "Willow, are you crazy?" "Yes, I'm crazy," she cried, shouting, her voice sharp as though it was being torn apart. She said, "George, it's you who drove me insane." Before I could react, she bit down on my lip like a crazed siren, as though she had lost her mind. In an instant, the strong taste of blood spread across my lips and teeth. I whitened my eyes in fury, and in a burst of rage, I shoved her chest, violently pushing her away. Then I kicked her hard in the abdomen. As Willow fell to the ground, I yanked her hair, and without hesitation, I slapped her hard across the face. With a crisp slap, Willow stopped struggling, sitting limply on the floor, her hair disheveled. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at me, her voice trembling as she asked, "You actually dared to hit me?" The answer to Willow was my clenched teeth as I raised my hand again, delivering another slap across her face. After those two slaps, blood trickled from the corner of Willow's mouth. It was at that moment that I noticed a distinct bruise around her eyes, and her eyelid twitched. She said, "George, you really have some nerve." Willow wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said slowly, word by word, "You can be so harsh with me. Ever since I met you, you've been like this, cold and indifferent, as if no matter how much I shout or make a scene, you don't care, you don't mind." Her eyes were red, and she stared at me, her voice trembling beyond control. She choked. "Sometimes I really wonder, did you ever love me?" I sneered and asked, "What does loving you mean?" I stared into Willow's reddened eyes and asked her, word by word, "Is it enough to love you if I expose your deepest, most painful scars in front of everyone?" She repeatedly tore at my wounds, bringing them up again and again as if they were casual topics for conversation. She watched me suffer in pain, struggling so much I couldn't even sleep. "Is this what Willow calls love?" I gazed at her and said, "If this is love, then I clearly don't have it. And if this is your love, I wouldn't want it even if I did." Willow's face turned deathly pale, and she shook her head violently, eager to explain. She said, "No, that's not it." She continued, "I didn't mean it like that. I just saw you with that woman, and you wouldn't even acknowledge me. I was really hurt. I was really jealous of her, you know." Willow anxiously tried to explain to me. She said, "I don't know why I said those things. You're always so lifeless, acting like you don't care about anything. I just wanted to get your attention, to make you stop and comfort me, but I didn't mean to." Willow's words stopped abruptly when she saw the indifferent look on my face. She sobbed as she came closer to me. "Please don't treat me like this." Willow's voice was trembling, her fingertips shaking as she took 2 steps forward, trying to hug my leg. She cried, "I don't want you to be like this. Whether you hit me or curse me, just don't act like this, okay?" But as she moved closer, I didn't hesitate for a second to push her away. I pinched the bridge of my nose, met her gaze, and said to her, word by word, "What's done is done. Right is right, and wrong is wrong." If Willow truly realized that and apologized to me, I might have calmly talked things through with her, but she didn't. She only cared about clearing her own name, about entangling me further, busying herself with meaningless words that had no relevance to the situation at hand. And at that moment, I thought she was nothing more than a worthless, deceitful woman. From head to toe, I said, "Leave." My voice was hoarse, but firm. I said, I don't want to see you again. Don't ever show up in front of me again. From now on, we walk our own paths, separate ways, no debt to each other, and hopefully, no more interference. I opened the door, making my intentions of wanting her to leave abundantly clear, but Willow's hand tightened even more, and she refused to budge. She said, I don't want to. That was Willow's answer to me. She gripped her hands tightly, her tone obsessive as she stubbornly said, I don't want to break up with you. She continued, you're just angry right now. You're saying things out of frustration, but you don't really mean it. Willow didn't care. Growing more convinced that she was right, she nodded, saying, we've known each other for almost 20 years, and you pursued me for so long before we finally got together. You've always liked me. How could you possibly want to break up with me? That's impossible. I gritted my teeth and grabbed the doorframe with force, repeating to Willow, leave. Willow was unwilling, still wanting to say more, but when she saw the fierce disgust in my eyes, her breath hitched, and she couldn't take another step toward me. She said, fine. Willow responded reluctantly, almost as if she didn't understand human language, adding, I'll leave today, but I'll come back tomorrow. After she spoke, she turned to leave, and I finally couldn't hold back the turmoil inside me. I grabbed the couple's mug from the table and smashed it on the floor. The pink-orange cat mug shattered into pieces, making a sharp, clear sound as it hit the ground. I said, don't ever bother me again. I gritted my teeth and spat, get as far away as you can. Willow, what you said today, it's no different from the people who bullied me back then. Willow's steps froze in place, and she stood there for a long time, not moving. I slammed the door shut with force, sank to the ground, and sat there in a daze for a long time. Chapter 08. That night, I dreamt of Willow. 12-year-old Willow wore a light blue dress and had her hair tied up in a ponytail. Her eyes sparkled like stars in the sky. She stood in front of me, speaking so seriously. She didn't sound like a child at all. She said, come with me. Don't pay attention to those bad kids. It's not your fault. The scene changed, and she was 18. She took the love letter I handed her. Her eyes reddened, as if she was about to cry at any moment. Willow looked up at me, her voice soft and sincere as she said, George, I thought you'd never speak up. She said, promise me, we'll always be together. Okay. I looked at her and answered seriously, okay, but in the blink of an eye, the scene from my memory slowly shattered before me, until it disappeared entirely. I thought that erasing Willow from my life would leave me in pain for a long time, but in reality, the very next day when I started working at the company, I almost instantly forgot about Willow. The company had landed a big contract, and everyone was running around like crazy, all busy preparing for year-end bonuses. I didn't have much time to be sentimental about a past relationship. After that day, Willow seemed to finally stop trying to hold on. She no longer harassed me, stopped calling or texting me in different ways. In my busy and monotonous daily life, the only messages I occasionally received were from Anna, sharing pictures of cats or beautiful sunsets. After that night, my relationship with Anna didn't grow distant. In fact, it seemed to be improving. Anna was a very thoughtful girl. She knew I was busy, so she didn't keep chatting with me for no reason. We'd talk occasionally, and sometimes I'd have a cup of coffee she made. Our relationship wasn't bad, nor was it especially close. Just like how friends get along, neither too hot nor too cold. I actually liked this kind of relationship. But Manager Sue, seeing how slow things were progressing between Anna and me, was really anxious. So, after work that day, he grabbed me and pleaded, George, today is my silly sister's birthday. Do me a favor and join us for dinner. I scratched my head, instinctively trying to refuse. How about next time? I didn't get her a gift. Manager Sue waved his hand dismissively. You don't need to bring anything. Just show up. That's all. Manager Sue firmly grabbed me, and seeing that I wasn't budging, he handed me the gift he had prepared and said, this is the gift you're giving her. Just give it to her. Is it really that simple? I scratched my chin, about to say something, but Manager Sue didn't give me a chance and directly dragged me to the car. When we arrived and were about to enter the private room, my phone suddenly rang with an unknown number. No contact saved. I answered instinctively, and the next moment, my ear was filled with a cacophony of noise. On the other end, there was the sound of car honks, and a lot of people talking and shouting, as if there had been some kind of chaos. George, Willow's weak voice came through the phone. She spoke in pain. I've been in a car accident. Can you come pick me up? I paused for a moment. The door to the private room had already been pushed open by Manager Sue. I saw Anna look up at me, her eyes lighting up when she saw it was me. She stood up and came towards me. Meanwhile, Willow's voice on the phone grew more frantic. She carefully spoke to me. George, I'm badly hurt. Can you come, please? Out of the kindness of having known her, I didn't hang up immediately. Instead, I lowered my head and quietly spoke. I'll call an ambulance for you, or if you give me your boyfriend's number, I'll call him to come help you. After I finished speaking, Willow on the other end of the phone was silent for a long time. It was so long that Anna had already jogged up and stood in front of me. She was slightly out of breath, yet still smiling brightly as she asked me, "George, what are you doing here? I didn't expect you to come to celebrate my birthday. I'm so happy." At that moment, the phone call with Willow was abruptly cut off, leaving only the sound of a busy tone. I thought for a moment, worried that she hadn't understood what I had said, so I typed out the message again and sent it to her number. But even after finishing Anna's birthday celebration, there was still no response from Willow. She wasn't a child anymore, and she should know better than to joke with her life. That's what I thought, until I saw Willow, covered in injuries, lying in the hallway outside my door. My eyelids twitched uncontrollably. It seemed like she heard my footsteps, and with great effort, she lifted her head to look at me, forcing a smile. She waved her hand weakly and said, "Hi, George." Willow pointed to the side and smiled at me. "I brought you your favorite crawfish." Willow, battered and bruised, was sitting next to a clean box of crawfish. The packaging showed it was from the place we had visited countless times, but she seemed to have forgotten some things. I sighed, crouched in front of her, and slowly said, "You're wrong," I said. "You got it mixed up. The one who likes crawfish has never been me." Willow froze in place, stunned. Chapter 09. A long time passed, and I could see Willow's expression gradually turn blank. That's when I knew she remembered. The first time I stepped into the crawfish restaurant with Willow was because the place had just opened, and we had received a 50% off coupon. She eagerly asked if we could go there for a late-night snack. I wasn't fond of eating crawfish, those crustaceans just didn't sit well with me, and I had no appetite, but Willow loved it. So, I ended up peeling crawfish for her. She happily devoured the shrimp, smiling playfully and saying, "George, what will I do without you?" "All right, it's settled then. From now on, you have to peel shrimp for me for the rest of your life." After she said that, noticing my stunned expression, she smiled and asked, "Aren't crawfish really delicious?" Back then, I hadn't eaten many shrimp myself and couldn't really taste much, but seeing Willow's smile, I absent-mindedly nodded. That summer, Willow fell in love with crawfish, and every few days, she'd ask me to take her for another round. I asked her, "How come you never get tired of this?" Willow wrapped her arms around mine and said, "I'll never get tired of eating it with you." I thought about it for a moment, and from then on, whenever she was feeling down, I'd buy her crawfish. When she was happy, I'd buy her crawfish. When she craved a late-night snack, I'd buy her crawfish. But I forgot that time was moving forward. People's tastes aren't always the same. Willow had grown tired of crawfish. She forgot that she once loved eating the crawfish I peeled for her. Only I remained, stubbornly clinging to the memories of our past, clumsily carrying crawfish, repeatedly appearing by her side. It wasn't until now that Willow seemed to finally realize. After we broke up, I sat for an hour in a car under the 36-degree heat, then spent another half hour in the noisy, stuffy barbecue restaurant, finally carrying 14 pounds of crawfish and walking 800 meters to stand beneath her building. It wasn't because I was craving it. It was because I wanted to see her. When she asked me if I had ever loved her, I thought that now, she must have found the answer. Willow's body slowly curled up into a ball. She tightly grabbed her hair and then let out a painful scream. She said, "I'm sorry." Willow's voice trembled uncontrollably, and she stammered, "I didn't know. I really didn't. Completely forgot. I always remembered. You loved crawfish, because you always bought it. How could I be so stupid? I completely forgot. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She lifted her head, her face wet, and I couldn't tell if it was from sweat or something else. She said, "I always thought you didn't care about me at all." Willow looked up at me, her face filled with bitterness. She said, "I just wanted to know if I had a place in your heart, so I purposely told you I had a new boyfriend, just to see if you'd get angry, if you'd feel upset, if you'd ask me even one question. Just one would have been enough, but I didn't expect." She didn't expect that I would show up at her door with 14 pounds of crawfish. She forgot that I'm taciturn, stubborn, and single-minded. Even if my teeth were broken, I'd just grit my teeth and swallow the pain. But after finding out she had a new boyfriend, I tossed and turned for a long time and finally decided to wish her happiness. Willow closed her eyes, her voice trembling so much she couldn't continue speaking. I said, "I'll take you to the hospital." The past, no matter how much we talk about it, it's meaningless now. What's most important right now is Willow's injuries. They need to be treated immediately. I reached out to support her, but Willow suddenly became agitated. She clung tightly to my arm, her eyes red, her voice choking with emotion. "I don't want to go. George, please don't drive me away," she said. "I was wrong. I'm really wrong. Can you forgive me? I shouldn't have made my friend dress up as a man to deceive you. I shouldn't have said those things in front of everyone. I know I was wrong. I never meant to say those things. I just didn't feel secure. I just wanted to know, do you really love me?" Willow's voice went from frantic shouting to broken sobs. Her entire body trembled, as if she was about to pass out at any moment. I knew her emotional state wasn't right, and I should be focusing on calming her down, but that word, forgive, kept lingering on my lips, and yet I couldn't bring myself to say it. I supported Willow, and we stood in silence for a long time. It was long enough for Willow to gradually calm down. Finally, I lowered my head and whispered, forget it. The crawfish from that barbecue restaurant, it's lost its flavor. Just like the relationship between me and Willow, it doesn't taste good anymore. If we insisted on eating it, all we'd get is a mouthful of bitterness. Willow, with tears streaming down her face, looked at me. Her lips trembled as though she wanted to speak, but no words came out. Her throat seemed to be blocked by something, and all that came were drops of tears falling one by one. When the ambulance arrived, she refused my offer to take her to the hospital and got into the vehicle on her own. I silently stood there, watching her leave. Chapter 10. Later, on my birthday, I received a delivery of peeled crawfish, a large box filled with just the meat, nearly 2 pounds. I knew very well that crawfish shells are heavy, and the meat is scarce. To get 2 pounds of meat, at least 15 pounds of crawfish would need to be peeled. I knew exactly who had sent it, and I understood what she was trying to say, but the truth is, I really don't like eating crawfish. In the end, its destination would only be the trash can.